High school sports fans, it's time to huddle. Fox 26 sports reporter Gabe Camarillo covers all you need to know on this week's Friday Night Rivals game and other games around the Central Valley. The U.S. Army's Friday Night Rivals podcast on Fox 26 kicks off right now.
Hello and welcome to the Friday Night Rivals podcast brought to you by the U.S. Army. I'm your host, Gabe Camarillo, and we're going to talk to Rich Tuman, head football coach of San Joaquin Memorial, in just a few minutes. But this is the podcast that you want to go to for your high school football fix. Week 1 starts on Friday. Before we preview the Friday Night Rivals game, let's take a look around the Central section for some of the top games this week. Before we do that, though, you can create your own adventure in the U.S. Army. The Army offers a number of career choices, travel opportunities, education benefits, and more. Visit GoArmy.com to find out more about your next adventure. With that being said, let's start with the Thursday games. Buchanan gets a visit from St. Pius X, St. Matthias. These teams have been playing each other for a couple years now, and Buchanan plays host on Thursday night at Veterans Memorial Stadium. Looking forward to seeing how the Buchanan Bears look. I know there's a lot of changes going on over there, a lot of graduating seniors. Fowler faces Hanford West at the Neighbor Bowl. With Hanford West, you're getting new head coach Nico Herron, and with Fowler, you're getting new coach Murrow. So 2 new head coaches who can establish themselves with a win to start their new careers. Hey, how about this? Here are all the coaches that are going to be coaching their first game with their new school. You got at Bullard High School, Lewis Franklin. You got Donnie Arax, who used to be at Bullard. Now he's at Central Valley Christian. Johnny Sears Jr. at Edison High School, former Edison Tiger there. You got Rich Tuman from San Joaquin Memorial High School, Lemoore alumni, longtime Lemoore coach. Now he's at Memorial. We're going to talk to him in just a few minutes, like I said. Paul Gola, shocking move down in Bakersfield when Gola goes from Garces to Independence after he was at Bakersfield High School for such a long time. Keeping it more local, though, Gerald Campbell at Lemoore High School. He's a former assistant of Rich Tuman. And you have Ricky McCoy at Roosevelt, Mitch Francis at Selma High School. And I think that's all for our local schools. There's a lot more in Bakersfield. So, there you go. So, a lot of those coaches, trying to start their new school stops with a win. Let's go to one of those guys, Edison High School, hosting Bakersfield at Sunnyside Stadium. This couple years ago was a huge ticket. Both these schools have proud traditions. This year, can Edison establish themselves with a new coach and a lot of new players in new roles? Bakersfield has a lot coming back. You can look at their star running back, Bryson Abbott, and say he's probably one of the top running backs in the Central section. You probably wouldn't be wrong if you said that. Interested to see how Edison does slowing them down. Centennial of Bakersfield will be at Redwood High School. I got a chance to look at Luke Sanchez, the new Redwood quarterback. I say new. He's new to start the season, but he started a couple games last year, so he definitely has some experience, but he's going to have the full year as a starter for the first time in his high school career. Can he start off hot? He has a good arm, and he's mobile, so I think he could ignite that Redwood offense, because the Redwood offense, I think, is going to be huge this year, considering the defense graduated a lot of key playmakers. Centennial also with a lot of graduation, so which new stars are we going to see come back in this one? When it comes to returning star power, I think one of the top teams that has it are the Clovis High Cougars. They host Central Valley Christian. You got Deegan Rose, who's Oregon State committed. Carlos Young, former Sanger Apache, played really good for Sanger last year. Now he's at Clovis High School. Desjor Malone, another impact transfer. I can go down the list of guys who were key starters wherever they were. Edison, Sanger, Clovis. This Cougars team has a lot of experienced starters, and I think that's going to be a huge difference maker for this year's team. Whereas in past years, Clovis was pretty young. I think this is a veteran Clovis Cougar team going up against a Central Valley Christian squad with first-year head coach Don Arax. Such a legacy he left at Bullard. And I could tell, watching the scrimmage between CVC and Clovis East, that this CVC team is not going to go down in any week without a fight. I mean, they are going to hit you hard. They're going to die for everything. I really feel like this is one of the most hardworking team that will fight for every inch that you will love. I would say don't sleep on Central Valley Christian this year. All right, moving on the list now. You got Sanger at Dinuba. Love this matchup. Physical football. Game will probably be over fast because, both these teams run the ball. So you might see, a game less than 2 hours. How about that? And we love that. But Sanger, they did lose some transfers. I mentioned Carlos Young. But with Ibarra and Bryson Baker, Ibarra and Baker are guys who were stars on last year's Sanger team. And I feel like their star is only destined to be brighter. Bryson Baker is probably going to go to a Division I college here soon. He's probably going to announce his commitment. And I think Baker, what is special about him is his versatility, his ability to play a good corner or safety. He's in that defensive backfield. You have him back there roaming around, and then you have him getting jet sweeps, catching passes as a receiver. I think that two-way playmaking is going to keep Sanger as a serious contender in the CMAC. And then Ibarra. Jonathan Ibarra is headed to Cal Poly. He's one of the top 160 athletes in California in his class because he's just a man. He's a high schooler, but he looks like a man with the strength that he has in the interior offensive line. So I said a lot about Sanger. Danuba also, you never count them out. They're well coached, led by CJ Lester. Hanford at Kennedy, that's actually going to be a Thursday game because of the referee shortage in Kern County. Interested to see how Hanford looks. They have a lot of good pieces coming back from last year. We can talk about Daniel Gomez, good size quarterback, 6'3" with a nice rocket arm. Corday Glass, another well put together athlete. He just kind of stands out there when you watch him play. He's going to Oregon State. So I think Corday Glass and Daniel Gomez, they're going to be prized attractions that we follow throughout the season. But they start against a Kennedy defense that's notorious for being stingy. So that should be a fun one to keep an eye on. Other notable games around the Central Valley, we have, how about this one? Mount Whitney at San Luis Obispo. The defending East Yosemite League champions start on the road. Not a bad time to be on the road, right? Usually August, it's hot. Not this Friday. It's going to be a nice 86 degrees. So maybe they missed out on having a good weather day in the Valley. But I'm sure that they're going to be super pumped up for that one. As we are for this next game, Clovis North at San Joaquin Memorial. It's the Friday Night Rivals game of the week. We'll have Ralph Wood, Camarillo out there on the CW59. Clovis North, the defending Central Section D1 champion. Yes, they lose a quarterback. Yes, they lose some key defensive playmakers. Yes, they lost their best receiver in Vincent Cordoba. But it's who they have back that has a lot of people believing the Broncos are just as good as last year. And last year they were dominant, right? They beat Memorial 62-8 en route to these routes. I mean, they went 13-0 in the Central Section, postseason and regular season combined. No one could stop them. Now, when you take away some of the offensive linemen that they had last year, are they just as unstoppable? That's going to be interesting to find out. But I'll tell you this. Jackson Sinfeld and McKay Matson, the two running backs that rushed for over 10 touchdowns apiece and had 100-yard games between each other. There were some games where they both had 100 yards rushing. They are better. They got in the weight room over the offseason. They're stronger. They're even harder to tackle. I described it this way to one of my friends last year when I described Jackson Sinfeld. Sinfeld is slippery, but he's also a boulder. So imagine trying to tackle a slippery rock. That's huge. That's Jackson Sinfeld. And then McKay Matson, who plays both ways, he's a ball-hawking linebacker, but he's also deceptively quick as a running back. And he's also, your state shot put champion. So you tell me if you think he's going to go to a good college. I'll tell you he is, right? UCLA and Oregon are on this kid. So Clovis North has Division I college caliber talent. I think that alone, like last year when they had the offensive tackle that's now at Washington, I think that type of talent can separate you from different teams in the Central Section, like a San Joaquin Memorial. But we'll hear Memorial's thoughts on the matchup when we talk to Coach Tuman in a few minutes. All right, other games of note. Sunnyside at Madera. Wow. This is a marquee matchup right out of the gate. You got a Madera team that's a no-huddle offense. Good quarterback play there between Joel Arellano and Wesley Linden. And you have Blake Burton coming back. Blake is a former All-CMAC selection. On the defensive side of the ball, Isaiah Bias is an all-league defensive end. That defense overall is very physical and hard to score on. And as I mentioned, the offense is up-tempo. So this is a pretty complete Madera team. Would not be surprised to see them give Sanger a run for their money in the CMAC. Can they start on the right foot, defending their home field against Sunnyside High School? It's going to come down to can they slow down Tanner Wilson and CJ Jones and Malachi Barnes, that trio that's been together for so long, now they are, it's their year. Now they're looking for a Central Section title. Last year they ran up against Lemoore, and I think Lemoore obviously was kind of a strong physical team like Madera is. Can Sunnyside handle physicality? We'll see if they can handle this Madera team. And if they beat Madera, I think Sunnyside is going to be talked about as a strong contender to win a D2 title. Never too early to talk about playoffs. We'll definitely do that a lot on this show. All right, here we go. More games to note to you. Torres at Kerman. How about this one? The Kerman Lions. They bring back Adrian Torres. They bring back a lot more on offense and even more on defense. The Damon Jenkins effect at Kerman is really interesting to me because here's a team that went all the way to the Central Section Championship last year in Division III. And, they did it mostly playing on the road. Had to go to Kennedy on the road, beat the Thunderbirds. Had to go to Mission Prep on the road, beat the Royals. So I think this Kerman team is battle-tested, and I'm probably going to pick them to win more often than they don't, right? Torres, on the other hand, is a Central Section champion, coming off a Division IV title. But because of the lack of returning starters, they do have the Defensive Player of the Year in the NYL, Amani Sua, which is awesome. But I think because of the overall lack of the starting quarterback from last year and the leading rusher from last year and a lot of key defensive players from last year, I think Torres might be on the rebuild. Look for Kerman to have a strong start to this season. All right, and Tulare Western versus El Diamante, that's going to be at Grupetti Stadium. I sense a shift with LD. I feel like when we went to EYL Media Day last month, their head coach exuded confidence. The players exuded confidence. You heard it here first. I think LD is going to have a resurgent season this year. They're going to make it tough for the other teams in the NYL. I don't have any doubt about that. Bullard, they're on the road to Merced. They face Golden Valley. I think this Bullard team could be interesting because they have some players back from last year, but obviously it's a new coach, Lewis Franklin, and a new quarterback, Tyler Franklin. But they got Laney at running back. They added Davian Potts from Washington Union. I feel like the skill players are good for Bullard. Can the line play put together some solid games to protect the quarterback? And on the other side, right, on defense, can they get to the other team's quarterback? That can determine how far Bullard goes this season. But I think they have a great foundation for some success this season. Clovis East, they're all the way in Utah. Now, if you want to talk about teams that are experienced, that are complete, well put together and balanced, you got to talk about Clovis East because they got the 4-year starting quarterback, Ty Miller. They got running backs in Slocum and Lindsey Graves. Receivers in Harold Duvall and Daniel Booker Jr. Defensive guys like Shadrick Smallwood, the transfer from Central. And he's not the only transfer, right? Clovis East has got transfers on top of the returning players. That equals a really good team that pushed Clovis North. Maybe the toughest test for Clovis North all season last year came against Clovis East both times they played. So if you're looking for a team besides Clovis North to win the D1 title, maybe take a look at Clovis East. And they're going to start their season in tough fashion, taking a flight on Thursday to Utah, Salt Lake City to face West High School. Interesting game there. Edison High School, the Edison Huntington Beach team, not Edison Tigers from Fresno, but Edison Huntington Beach goes to Veterans Memorial Stadium to face Clovis West. Clovis West this year does not have Tyler Patrick or Marshall Sanders or Landon Wright, but what they do have is, a freshman quarterback. And how about that, right? A freshman quarterback with senior receiver J.D. Darrington. That's going to be an interesting dynamic because I've heard a lot of good things about this freshman quarterback. It's kind of the same buzz that there was when Deegan Rose was a freshman. Everyone just kind of looked at him and said, he's very physically mature for his age. He has the confidence that's beyond his age. Now, can he play beyond his age? That's going to be interesting to follow, but I think this could be something special. Keep an eye on J.J. Howard. Now, with Jaron Mal, the transfer from Bullard, he has to sit out for a few weeks because of the CIF rules. That's, something that happens every now and then. Happened to Bryson Donaldson when he transferred to CVC 2 years ago. So nothing major, but obviously Mal is itching to get back on the field so that way he can push Howard for the quarterback spot. But either way, I think Clovis West has an answer at quarterback. They have an answer at receiver with J.D. Darrington and even the transfer, Dominic Tafoya. Interested to see how that defense looks led by Titus Dimmer, who is one of the best pass rushers in the Central section. I'll tell you this, all right? Clovis West will be better than you think. People seem to be down on them. I'm not one of those people. I think Clovis West could definitely give one of the top 4 teams in the track a run for their money. Speaking of the track, left out an important player in the track, Central. Keep an eye on Brandon Smith and company because they have a lot of pieces coming back. They face Justin Garza High School at Collegian Stadium. That's going to be an amazing atmosphere, first of all, because you got both high schools in Central Unified School District going head-to-head. But not just that, you're looking at possibly a shootout between Caleb Matthews for Garza and the new quarterback for Central, sophomore Jelani Dipple. I'm excited for this matchup. I think Central skill players are solid between their, state track finalist, E.J. Morgan at receiver. You also got Zeb White from last year's Division I runner-up. And that's another thing, too. Central went toe-to-toe with Clovis North in the championship and, was in the game in the fourth quarter, had a chance to take the lead. I hate to remind Central fans of that, but that just shows that last year was, not their best year in terms of talent. They didn't have your Xavier Worthies. They didn't have your Jeremiah Hunters, but they still managed to make it all the way to the championship. And this year, they're a year older and had almost everyone back. So I think Central is definitely a team to monitor in the title picture. All right, that will do it for our look over at all the Central Section games of note. Before we get to Rich Tuman, I wanted to tell you that with over 150 jobs available, learn the skills you need to be all you can be during a career in the U.S. Army or Army Reserve. Visit the Army's online career explorer at goarmy.com to learn more. This is the U.S. Army's Friday Night Rivals podcast. I'm your host, Gabe Camarillo. We'll be doing a weekly episode based off of the Friday Night Rivals game, starting with this week's game. He is Rich Tuman of San Joaquin Memorial High School, first-year head coach there. Coach Tuman, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing, Gabe?
Doing very well. You and I are familiar from our past conversations when you were the Lemoore head coach. Tell me, a bit more about yourself. And I think you have a connection with Memorial where you find yourself now.
Yeah, true. It's true. I started about 30 years ago. Went up through the ranks, JV in Lemoore, worked my way up through coordinator in Lemoore, and then all the way into San Joaquin Memorial. Was there for about 10 years, different positions there. In 2020 COVID year, my alma mater, which is Lemoore, the position opened back up again. Well, went back down there, and we started to try to build the program back. COVID year was not a great year, but that was the goal. I'd lived there most of my life. My kids have graduated from Lemoore. We lived in Lemoore I've lived in there most of my life. We recently moved to Clovis, but yeah. So we went back down there to try to, put some energy back in because it had been down for a while, and then had a pretty good year. COVID was not, COVID was COVID, so it wasn't the greatest of starts, but actually, in retrospect, I think it was one of the best things that could have happened because it meant we started our freshman and sophomore kids early and got them a little bit of, varsity football underneath their belt. And I think from there they bought into the system and a mentality, and then we had a pretty good next 3 years.
Yeah, pretty good's an understatement. You guys won a Central Section title 2 years ago, went back to the title game. Despite graduating a lot of key players from that championship team, you went back to the championship game and lost narrowly. I would ask this very simply, right? That first year at Lemoore, is that very similar to this year at Memorial, where you're kind of walking in and there's a lot of youth and you're just kind of trying to get experience under these kids' belt?
It was a deja vu, for a better word. That's exactly what we are. We are coming into now. Luckily, some of them played last year and did get some football underneath their belt, so they're a stage up. But yeah, we got a lot of young kids that are working hard, feeling it a little bit, and starting to get in the system. again, we have 2 freshman quarterbacks on our roster. So we'll be starting a freshman quarterback because that's where we're at. But I'm really confident in the young man, Colton Johnson. He's coming along real well and has a great football IQ. He's learning real fast. He has the desire to learn and to keep moving forward. So I'm excited for what this kid could be this year, next year. And he's going to get pushed because we also have Vernon, a freshman that we brought up, that is right on his heels. Athletically, he's right on his heels. He's got an arm that can throw anywhere on the field. So future-wise, I think we're looking good. Now, it's not all, we're obviously focused on this year. The goal this year is to get better every week, like any cliche coach would say. But I mean, it's realistic when you're talking about half of your, 3/4 of your team is 10th graders or below. That you gotta get better every week. And the scrimmage looked real good. I was very happy with the scrimmage. We got a great coaching staff, and that's another thing. We had Lemoore. That's what helped out in Lemoore too. Now, again, me and you've talked a bunch of times, and you understand it. But Lemoore, my coaching staff in Lemoore was off the chart, and we wouldn't have got better if I didn't have Scotty Silvas and Gerald Campbell's and guys like that. Gomnis, Coach Gomnis and Jose Morales. If we didn't have guys like that down there, we don't get better. Well, the same thing here in San Joaquin Memorial. That's what does it. Coaching staff believes in, we all sit down, we all have a vision of what we want to do. Everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to be successful. So once we identify what we have to do to get there, and everybody does that, then we got a good shot. Johnny Johnson will be a first-time defensive coordinator up with us. But I mean, I haven't seen energy on that side of the ball in a long time. I mean, he's working his butt off to get better every week. We got James Fuller, been there forever. We have Gio, we call him Gio, but our old line coach is 100% in. But we just got a great coaching staff, and the kids see that the coaches are buying in, so then they start to trickle in. And right now, we're starting to come together, and like I said, we're going to shock a few people. Now, expectations are one thing, where will you be? But we're going to shock some people of where we're at and what we got and what we're going to do.
I like it. Now, last time you got San Joaquin Memorial, you were the offensive coordinator. I kind of alluded to that earlier. What did you learn from the former head coach Anthony Ghostin, who was there from 2004 to 2023, 2 decades that he was at San Joaquin Memorial, some great teams he had. Anything you picked up from him during your time coaching with him?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, let's focus. Let's go back to when I went to Lemoore. Structurally wise, I had never ran a program before. So structurally wise, I took a lot of his logistical structure of like practice structures and different things. I took that with me when I went down there. Couldn't have any more respect for a man. He is, detailed in everything he does. Took a lot from him. Now, another thing that shows his character is that I called him at times, when there was like the logistical side of being a head football coach, as far as ordering equipment and, where do you get this from? Where's your pictures? Where do you do this? I gave him a call, and he answered right away, and anything you need, Tuman, you got it. So yeah, again, there's another guy that I don't think I'm as successful in Lemoore if I don't piggyback off of things that he had done and showed me how to be a successful program and a successful head coach.
So then he comes up to you. I don't know if he chose you or how that went down, but did he have a talk with you about taking over the program?
No. So When I stepped down to Lemoore, it was strictly a business, personal decision. When I stepped down to Lemoore, that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. So I get back to, I'm thinking I'm done, to be honest with you. I told my wife, hey, 30 years, I think I'm done, whatever. Well, I started getting phone calls day 2. And I was very appreciative of them phone calls, by the way. I had, different high schools call me, and I was very appreciative of that. Then I got a call.
But you were like, hey, let me stay retired. You're like, hey, I'm done. Right.
Well, I had just stepped down, so I said, give me a minute. That's what I said. Give me a minute.
Yeah.
I literally
These guys, I know 2 days after I stepped down, you're coming after me like wolves. Like, what? Yeah, exactly. And you love Lemoore. You're from Lemoore. So why would you leave there if not for something personal, right? They should realize.
Exactly. So I stepped down, and I'm thinking, hey, man, I'd wrap my head around and not coaching again. And so now here's some phone calls. And then Ghostin was one of them and said, hey, could you come? I want to have a conversation. So with him, of course, I'll come talk because I respect the man that much. And he first said, hey, I want you to be offensive coordinator, and I'll let you kind of do whatever you carte blanche. You can do what you want on offense, and I'll just oversee the concept. And I said, oh, great. That I told my wife, I'm excited about that because that's back to where I love X's and O's, and that's it. Right. And I said, all right. And when I got in there, he said, are you ready? And I said, well, no, we're young. I'm not quite ready offensively. And he said, no, you don't understand. I'm going to step down and retire, and I want you to be head coach. And I'm like, no, my head wasn't ready for that. But anyway, we talked for a few more minutes, and he explained the reasons why he would like for me to, take over for a little bit. And it made sense. I'd been there. I know the program. I know the traditions that they have there, and that we felt that it wouldn't, at least for the near future, it would be a better fit if I took over, just so that if we didn't fall down and then have to rebuild. So I agreed with it. Said that I agree with what you're saying, and let's do it. And so far, I'm more than excited that I did it, because it's what I love to do is see kids develop and become better humans, athletes, school students, and I'm seeing that top to bottom. I mean, they're all in, and they're working hard, and they are excited to play a game of football, and that's. If you're not a coach who don't like that, then I don't know why you're in this business.
Well, I want to go back to something you mentioned a few minutes ago. Freshman quarterbacks. You got 2 of them. What's the most important part of communicating to a freshman quarterback? Because I'm taking myself back to when I was a high school freshman, which wasn't that long ago, right? And I was so scared because it's a new adventure. You're in high school now. Your eyes get big because you saw it in TV, you saw it in movies, but now you're actually in high school. And then to add on top of that overwhelming feeling, you got to be the quarterback for your varsity football team. How do you communicate with the quarterback to get their confidence up and to get the best out of them if they're a freshman?
Well, I think you said it right off the bat, communication. I mean, from day one, honesty. People around me know what I am. I'm usually fairly blunt when my conversations. I don't powder cut or, I'm pretty direct forward. I don't, but communication was big, and I let them both know. You're stepping into a realm that you maybe think you know what you're going to do, but you don't know. I mean, varsity football, high school football moves at a very high pace, and you have to be willing to do the work and listen to coaching staff, and then fine tune and understand what we're doing. And I'll tell you right now, we started with Colton. Vernon stayed down on JVs to start. Colton came up and started working with us in the spring and then in the summer. And his development, where he went mentality-wise, from, say, May till now, is as high as anybody that I've had except for Ty Chambers. And I told him that. I said, I coached a kid named Ty Chambers and he was off the chart from a freshman on, right? Sophomore, but incredible athlete.
Led your Lemoore teams to their championships that we talked about, yeah?
Yes, sir. And so I said, you're right there. I mean, he goes home and watches film. He knew the plays within a week and a half, not just the plays that we were trying to install, but the playbook up to that point, and which was impressive. He was out there, and we tried to explain to him that what I need you to do is, even in practice, take charge. This is your team, so take charge. Get vocal. Do different things that let everybody else on the team know that you got this, that you understand it, and you're gonna do it. And then I already knew by watching him throw the football that the athletic part and the football part, they'd get buy-in once they saw it, but they had to see that he wasn't timid. And we just had a scrimmage Friday, and of course we didn't want to do anything to put him in jeopardy in any way. But when there was a couple plays that he did that on his own and took off running, and we had to have a conversation. but if that's his instinct in what we call the oh crap moment, is to take off and do something good for the team, we're good with that, because that's Ty Chambers all over, and Ty.
Yeah.
If something happened, Ty would put it on his back and he'd try to make it happen himself. And I like what Colton's doing now, because he's doing similar things.
Yeah, very competitive nature in both of those young guys. Last question, actually two more real quick. There's senior leadership on this team. Where can we find it, the guys that are going to help the underclassmen get acclimated to varsity football?
Well, I mean, that's coming. That's the great part about this, is I create everywhere I go, which has only been two, but I created what's called a leadership group, and that consists of at least 3 to 4 seniors, 1 or 2 sophomores or juniors. In that, we're getting leadership from all over. We've got our punter kicker, Alex. It's tough to even say his last name.
Asparuhov.
Yeah. Okay. He's being recruited by everybody.
Yeah.
He is so selfless that he's out there helping every aspect of the football team. I mean, he'll go over and work with the quarterbacks. He'll come over and work with the receivers and do whatever the coaching staff needs during that time. We also have AJ Garcia, who's going to be be a starter both ways on the line, which I've only had that happen a few times where somebody could do that, and I think he's going to be he'll be okay at it. We'll have to give him some blows, but we have Jackson on the defensive end side that has matured into, I think he's going to be something that people have to reckon with. And again, Mateo Peretti, again, I'm not great with last names, but anyway, he's our middle linebacker. He's out there, not a vocal guy. A couple of these guys are more show you by what I'm going to do on the field as far as practice and work hard and do that. And we got David Bell back there now as a senior. He's coming through and showing some guys some stuff. So it's not necessarily verbally, but what they did do is they're out there showing that they're willing to work hard and push themselves to the limit. So, I'm excited about our senior guys. Not a whole bunch of them, but the ones that I have, I'm very excited about.
Yeah, a couple of notes to what you just said. David Bell was a starting running back for Central last year, and it was a really good running back last couple of years for the Grizzlies. So he's obviously a huge addition for your team.
Yes.
And then Asparuhov, we just ran a story on him over the weekend about him committing to Alabama. And I don't know how many guys from the Central Valley have received a scholarship and taken that scholarship to play for the University of Alabama, where Nick Saban just wrapped up a legendary all-time great coaching career. So really cool stuff from your kicker/punter. I'm sure we'll be saying his name a lot on Friday night for the Friday Night Rivals broadcast, where you guys open your 2024 season against the defending D1 champion Clovis North Broncos on your home field. Your work's cut out for you, right? Clovis North, we know what they have, power running game. What are some keys to the game for you to make this one interesting?
Well, First of all, the first 5 is a gauntlet. I mean, our
Yeah.
first games. But again, I didn't look at the schedule and go, oh, and start to feel sorry for myself. We actually looked at it and said, well, these 5 games could increase us and make us so much better so that when we enter the CMAC, we've played the best of the best. So at this point, we should be able to go. Now, as far as the Clovis North goes, I mean, we don't have any film on them for this year, obviously, but because I think their scrimmage was canceled or whatever. But you go over 22 and 23, they are what they are, and they don't, they're going to do what they do, and they're very good at it. And they got some good athletes on the outside, very good athletes on the outside. They got a linebacker, running back combo that is going to be devastating. They're a great football team from top to bottom, and from the film you can tell they're very technically sound, which means they're awesomely coached. So yeah, we just got to go. Last year, I guess it was pretty bad. So our goal this year is to just try to compete, and not quit. We don't want to quit. We're gonna keep fighting. So that's our goal. And I think we got the guys to do it. But yeah, I from what I've seen from last year and the returners that we know is coming back, and then the couple guys that they got for fill in, they're gonna, there's no reason why they can't be repeat people in the Division I thing. But again, we're not. But that doesn't mean we're not going to go out and give it a shot. We're working hard in practice, and you never know. You got to play the games. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens when we play the game.
Well, I mean, I'm sure part of the inspiration and motivation this week at practice at Memorial is those kids that were on last year's team that gave up 60 points. They don't want to give up 60 points again, right? Have you talked about that with them last year's game at all? Or
Absolutely. That we've had that conversation big time, and we really, when we watch film against them from last year, that's part of the conversation. We really don't go over a bunch what North is doing. Most of our conversation during film work is what we didn't do last year. Where we did start giving up in certain areas and different things that we made mistakes on last year. So we focus more on ourselves than what North did. We focus on what we didn't do or what we should have done. And because we're never going to get better if we don't start looking at ourselves. And that's our key in watching film, is to diagnose ourselves, even me as a coach. I mean, we just went over our film from the scrimmage, and I told the kids 3 different plays that I should have called differently, or B should have recognized, and I didn't. So, I mean, I'm been in this for a long time, and I still make mistakes. So they got to understand they got to make a mistake. But as the cliche goes, and what we live by now, I mean, I beat it in their heads. It's not what happened. It's what you do next is the main thing. And that's what we're going to go on. So, North may hit us or get a big play on us, but it's what we do next that matters. And they understand that, I think. And you'll see that hopefully Friday night.
Well, hey, I mean, you know what's going to come on for Clovis North. They're going to run the ball. They got some beasts at running back, but it seems like your boys are ready for the challenge. We talked to Rich Tuman, San Joaquin Memorial head football coach. Best of luck to you, Coach, this season.
Yeah, thank you, Gabe, and always a friend of the program, and so hopefully we'll talk later.
Thanks for listening. We appreciate the U.S. Army support in bringing you Friday Night Rivals high school football.